Welcome back to G-Brands. I'm Andy Rowe, and on the couch this week I'm joined by our newest member of the team, former Wallaby, Crusader, James O'Connor. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Well, we'll get into that shortly. We want to see if you are okay.
Not good, but good enough.
You're okay. You're a bit poorer after the Maccas you've been shouting. And joining us from a jail cell from somewhere, we're not quite sure whether he's made it home or not, it's serial Super Rugby winner, All Blacks legend, Lions whitewasher, it's Justin Marshall.
That's an intro.
Isn't that an intro? Well, he's obviously, because every time that JP's on, he takes the piss out of me for not winning a World Cup. So he's had to think about it, and he knows that he can't do that now. So he's gone the other tack, which I like. And you know what else he's doing it for? And I've noticed it straight away. And for the listeners out there who can't see, he's taken my spot on the couch. So he's trying to grease me up. Don't get too comfortable there, mate. I know you've moved across from your usual place where we isolate you, but Andy, just treat that seat with respect, mate.
Marshy, why can't you just take a compliment, mate? Why can't you just be nice about it?
Thank you very much for the nice intro, Andy. I really appreciated it.
Mate, where are you? Where are you? Tell us where you are.
I haven't quite made it home yet from the weekend. I'm just gallivanting around. All I disclose is that I'm not currently in New Zealand, that I'm elsewhere, and I shall reveal that location throughout the course of the week. But what I did do is venture to Hamilton for the weekend, and yeah, since then I haven't made it home. Took a big suitcase with me, but yes, at this stage and point in time, I'm giving you nothing more. I'm gonna see if people can actually figure out exactly where I am in the world, or even in New Zealand.
Oh, are you going to give us a clue?
Yeah, okay. What's a good clue? Good clue would be...
Are you hungover?
No, not yet. But another.
Is there a monkey in your room?
I could. No, there's no monkeys in my room. But I could very well find myself... yes, there's no other way to put it. Spraying the toilet a little bit if I'm not careful and watch what I eat and take care.
Okay.
I could lose some weight this week.
All right.
We'll lose some weight.
We'll let the listeners dwell on that and have a think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. How are you, mate? How are you?
I'm all right. A bit of time has gone past since the game.
Bit of context. The Chiefs absolutely thumped you in Hamilton last Friday night.
They did indeed. I think, the tough part was sort of with 30 minutes to go, I felt like we sort of had some momentum we're building. They're not taking anything away from the Chiefs win because, man, they were clinical. Like, they showed how to close out a game, and they really just, took advantage of our opportunities. I think the toughest thing for me is, I'm sitting here preaching how to close a game out. Then I get on there and do the exact opposite to what I wanted to do. So I wanted to turn them around and bring our forwards back into the game. And I feel like we just overplayed, and then our guys got tired and they made the most of those opportunities. And, pin corners well, and then some of their full field tries were, they really turned it on.
Mate, we spoke about last week when we had you on, being in a changing room that's completely different, and you had the opportunity to be in a Crusader changing room, facing what I don't think anybody's going to debate at the moment, their biggest rivals in the last at least 5 or 6 years, both of them having won Super Rugby titles, been in finals, Chiefs were even in a final last year. There's definitely an edge there, and we reluctantly use the word hatred, but because I'm retired I can use it, so I kind of hate them a bit. But what was it like just that 5 or 6 minutes, 10 minutes before heading out onto always quite a hostile ground at the best of times, let alone when you're in Crusader instead of our Queensland Red?
Mate, I haven't had that much chat thrown at me ever. Like when we were warming up on that far side, that southern end, geez, there was some good heckle going on. Even all our Reggies were laughing man, they're getting stuck into you. There was a lot of positive stuff too. But it was it was definitely an experience, we'll put it that way.
I've warmed up in front of that crowd for the All Blacks, and mate, they used to give it to me when I was there as a Crusader. One year, right in front of that crowd, I accidentally poked Mark Cooksley in the eye, which people, I know this is going to sound bizarre, but honestly, we're attacking their line, and one of their players is on the wrong side, and I basically grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and pulled him out, aggressively. And the crowd started going up, and Cooksley came over, and tried to grab me by the shirt. And as he went to, I went to the ref and I said, he's not onside like that. And when I went like that, my finger honestly went straight into his eyeball. And he went reeling back, and the whole crowd just went up in an uproar because they thought I'd punched him for a start off, which I can be a little sort of, I guess, sometimes naive and over aggressive, but he's the last bloke I'm going to even think about punching.
You'd probably rather poke him in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just basically take him out of being able to even see what he's going to punch back, which I think is not a bad idea. But they never forgave me from that Crusaders game. So that group of people or that crowd throughout that time that I played there, they were always in that area. And every time I went there, they would absolutely dish it out to me because of that one incident where they thought that I intentionally poked them in the eye, and they would give me assholes. One game they yelled out, and they said, Marshall, you're completely ruining the game for the All Blacks. You'd never even put the shirt on. This is why we're going to lose this test match and all that. And I actually looked back to him and thought to him, I'm on the fucking bench. I haven't even been on the field yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, how can I be costing us the test match when I haven't even set foot on the field?
They don't want you anywhere near it. They don't want you anywhere near it, Marshall.
Nowhere near it. Oh, yeah.
That's
so
good.
yeah,
That's good
it
chat.
is. It's a cauldron, though, isn't it? And I certainly think that you are made aware that you're in their crowd, you're in their patch, but it's a great place to play. Like that stadium, that surface is. You don't get many better in the world, let alone in New Zealand, and good place to challenge yourself, I think. As a rugby player.
Good pitch. It was fast rugby. Like, it was creative. There was so many opportunities. I mean, that's what's so frustrating for me, coming on at that moment where sort of the game's in the balance there, and we lose a couple set pieces, a couple kicks are inaccurate. Then they put us into a corner, and then they just squeeze us, and then those 2 quick tries, and then from 20 minutes, to go, we start chasing the game, which is not the sort of mentality you need. I know we can score points. Our Crusaders team, we can. But then it was just, that moment, like I just felt like the energy was a little bit off.
What's your role
It was
in
hard
that?
to review that. It was very hard for me to review that game. Like my role in that, like that's my job, is to
Slow
manage.
it down and manage it.
To manage it, and sort of like I was brought on early as well because to do that. So then when I don't deliver, especially, I know better. I know how to close out that sort of game. I'm not saying I would have. I'm not like, obviously the Chiefs did what they did and they pulled apart our defence because I felt like we were a little bit fatigued. And, we've trained today, we've gone back to the drawing board, and we're not changing. It's not huge changes we need. It's just a couple little moments. We score that try in a corner, or even Dave's kick that he puts through, if that doesn't go dead. There was just a couple little moments where if it went our way, I think the game could have been different. But still, they put, 30 points on us in 20 minutes.
I'm not saying this because you're on the podcast. Absolutely, I think you needed to do what you needed to do. Like, everything didn't come off, but you needed to change the picture of what the defence were seeing, because they were defensively very good. They were starting to pick you off. They went up a level in terms of their tempo and pace that they wanted to play. Their forwards all of a sudden stopped carrying and started distributing.
Yeah.
And their block plays were starting to cause you massive problems on the edge. Like I remember Shea Fiaki having lots of 3-on-1s where he was having to just either bite in or try and hold his ground, and then he was getting skinned anyway. So they changed the picture. But mate, a massive part, call in the game was when you got jersey pulled. How did you feel about that? Because you were the next supporting player.
I thought I was going to get my first try in 10 years. I was filthy. Hey, I was genuinely hands in the air. To be honest, he probably would have outrun me anyway.
That's the worst thing in rugby, like a jersey puller. Like I've got no time for a jersey puller. That's just I'm out of the game. I can't keep up with the pace of the support player. I'm going to grab him by the jersey and affect his game and affect his running lines. And for me, like, it's the filthiest thing you can do on the rugby field. I know that sounds pretty harsh, but I hate a jersey puller, mate. Oh my God.
Well, you always get like a little bit of niggle, like just a little pullback. I feel like that's sort of part of the game. But to hold on to someone for that long, again, would I have had the legs to get there? Who knows? But I could feel that try come on already. Again, we still got the penalty, kicked 3 points, 17 all, and then we just didn't clear our area efficiently. Then they get the ball, score a quick try again, off kickoff again. So it was just. was just moments that really capitulated our game.
Are we looking at the Chiefs now, just even after 2 rounds, is the team to beat in this competition? They've knocked off the Blues. They've knocked you guys off convincingly.
Well, yeah, from my point of view, like I think you saw what they did against the Blues. They muscled up physically. They played that sort of power game, and then us, I guess they flipped between, like you said, Marshy, like that second half with 20 to go, they started distributing more off 10, and they went from, I think one of the tries they scored against us, they went from one touchline to the far edge of the field, which you really don't see that anymore in the modern game because of high defences and whatnot. So, they adapted their game well, and I think they just put the ball in the right parts of the area at the end of the game, which is, they managed it quite well. So I would say they're definitely going to be up there. Obviously, they were there last year as well. But yeah, time will tell, because as we're seeing too, like look at all the other rounds of footy. Like there was quite a few upsets, high-scoring games. Like it's going to be a great competition. Moments will win it.
Yeah, they will. And I think what they are is they're a team that's been to finals. A lot of those players have won finals recently, so they've got really good cattle in that regard, and I think their game recognition is really high. Like that was a war of attrition at the weekend. They got a good start. You guys came back into it at 17-all. That game can flip either way, but you could just see some of their key playmakers really stand up and do a lot of the unseen work on the field, and just their injection into the game can make a massive difference to others. Mackenzie came in again to first receiver a couple of times. Like I thought about their last try, we were talking about it after the game. I think it was a line break from Kuntu Paio went through, then it was a ruck, and then everybody performed different roles. Anton Leonard-Brown played halfback, first receiver was Damien McKenzie, and then second receiver outside him was, I don't know who it was actually, but it was all players. Oh, it was Josh Jacob, and
yeah.
So he's slipped into second, Mackenzie's slipped into first receiver, and Anton Leonard-Brown's gone halfback. They've just got players that recognise when a situation is developing, and they're just happy to step up and step in. And I think they've got great cattle to work with. Being able to bring All Blacks off the bench for Clayton McMillan, that's key in this competition.
And it was interesting for me to just see how they mix their game up, which usually they aren't known for kicking corners in front 40, which they did probably 3 or 4 times against us. They were happy. Like we had this chat obviously last week. They were happy to give us the ball and make us overplay or put us into a corner and pressure our set piece, really put the pressure on our kicking game. And I haven't seen that much from the Chiefs in the past. So, I thought their game plan and the way they, I guess, tweaked between was really good. And I'm assuming that would have come from the game drivers, to be honest, like being able to tweak the game on the run like that and seeing different pictures. Thought it was, good footy.
Yeah, totally agree.
I don't want to dwell on this, I want to move on for a little bit, but like...
I'm already hurting, mate. It's been a tough few days.
When you have a tough few days like this and you have a review that's not nice, what's the process, and like how do the coaches try and pump up your tires a little bit, give you some of the positive stuff, like Marshy's highlighted all the good things you're doing and had to do, or like how does the process work after the game if you don't have your best performance?
I think it varies sort of week to week and where you're at in the season. Like for me, I'm my harshest critic, and the one thing that frustrates me the most is if I say I'm going to do something and then I don't deliver on my fundamentals, that one hurts the most. And that's like, this is me talking about me personally, like obviously the game is about the team, and I feel like from what I did there, not that I didn't put the team first, but I could have underplayed that for a 5-10 minute period of play instead of coming on like I had the week before or in the trial games and really sped up the game. I think that game required a different version of what I brought. So that's the one that hurts me the most, because I know better, and I've been in these situations before. But in terms of like from a team element, it's not about throwing like, the baby out with the bathwater. There was a lot of good things we did there. It just opened up and everything sort of started working for them. Like we'll put some more emphasis on the defense, and I think as well, when you're not as fit, like we're talking about fatigue, more ball and play time. Like when you're not as, like when you're fresh and the ball's in front of you, you defend a lot better and you've got a lot more energy to cover gaps. Like you said, you saw Shea coming in and having a tackle third last. Like you don't want that too often. And we'll go back and we'll reflect on that. But again, for me, it was just 3 or 4 moments we do a little bit differently, and the game's, it's a very different ball game. They don't score 2 full field tries maybe they still get up, but I think it'll be very different. So again, probably I'm answering this in a long way, but so our review process was a tough review. Like we were tough on each other in terms of where we need to get better and what we need to do, but also at the same time we looked through what we did create, how we did come back into the game after that slower start after 10 minutes, how we did get some ascendancy at the start of that second half. So we are doing a lot of good things and we feel like we can create a lot. It's almost the balance of not overplaying, because sometimes, that teams can work you out. If you've got the ball, you're holding the ball too often, then they'll set their D-line a little bit more and not cover the backfield space. So it's just a little bit of balance, a little bit of, just differentiating your tactics a bit.
I think probably, I totally agree, and it's a good summary. I think like we all suffer adversity throughout a season and have performances that we're not happy with, and that's just a part of the game. And it's not through, you can't say it's through the lack of want from the players, through the fact that they are not working like they should, or it's just sometimes things on the day happen. Like, I certainly feel that one of the messages that consistently always came up when I was a Crusader is, if they're going to win, make them hurt. They got to hurt to actually get the reward of winning and beating us. Look, they can beat anyone else they want to and not hurt, but to actually have to hurt to get their win, which means they're going to have to keep working until the 80th, and we're going to hang in there. We're not going to fall off tackles. We're not going to make it easy. And if you actually earn that win, well, fair play, you've earned it, but you'll be hurting the day after and the day after that in your recovery, and we'll get you next time. So, that's where it's worrying that like you say, you leak over 30 points. It looks like they're doing it easily, and they're probably not going to be hurting in his recovery as much. And that was always good messaging, but sometimes you can't control that. Like we've tried, like sometimes as well, when we're suffering a bad patch, you're trying to fight your way out of it, somehow find a solution as a team, and we've tried everything, and sometimes you just got to move on quickly, turn to the bottle. That doesn't often work very well, but makes you feel good temporarily. Like I remember we turned to the bottle one year, and it was when they brought the breathalyzer in as an educational tool. And it was Steve Hansen that actually introduced it. So, the breathalyzer like you would have, like the police would carry, and we brought it in for our recovery mindset. So when we've had a win or a loss, and this particular time it was a loss, you would, before you got on the bus, they would test your amount of alcohol levels the next morning, just to get a gauge to educate you on what you've got in your system, and then we'd go do our recovery. Anyway, this one, we lost this game, and Greg Somerville, former All Black and Crusaders prop, came on the bus. And I can tell you what, mate, as soon as he walked on the bus, you could see in his eyes he had probably, if he was lucky, been to bed for an hour. Anyway, the breathalyzer makes it way down the bus, and old Yoda's trying to hide in the toilet, but they find him. And so they get this breathalyzer on it. And honestly, mate, he blew something like a record, like 1,700. It was like 12 times the time 12 times what you could do, drive a car. And like obviously blew into this thing, everyone's heads went down and we started giggling. And then he kind of stood up and held it like this, and everyone just gave him a massive big round of applause. So it was like something like that actually had a positive spin on our culture. Like, fuck me, the coaches weren't happy, but we thought it was so entertaining. And then obviously the other one they can do is go out and try and make you spew. I don't know if they do that anymore, but instead of getting on the bus, they come and wake you up early, and they put you on a bus, and they go down and run the absolute arse off you and basically punish it out of you. But ultimately, I've always found that just honest appraisal is the best form of a recovery from suffering a loss. Just boys getting together, recognising what didn't go well, and making sure it never happens again.
Yeah, I feel that, like what you said before as well. If you lose because you guys played, like, because we played poorly, that's the one that hurts. Whereas if you're just outplayed on the day, then you can sort of handle those ones, which is why it was a little bit tougher for us. But I agree as well. There's a time and a place for everything, and just I think this early in the season, I think the coaches handled it perfectly with the messaging today. Like, don't get me wrong, like we bloody trained hard today. We got the bye week now, so we came in for a training session, like a deep review training session. What's what, and they worked us hard, that's for sure. But it was boys wanted to work hard. I think it's great to see, like when you actually get out there and win. Like it hurt. Like when when you walk into a dressing sheds and after a big loss, and you can see it doesn't hurt people, or it hurts some people but not all. Like everyone, like, man, I wanted to dig a hole and bury myself in it when I was walking off the field after that game, because I just felt so distraught. I was so disappointed in what I'd put out there for my new team. So, but when I walked in as well, I could see everyone else was hurting in that way. Like, this ain't happening again.
That's good. Yeah, it's good that you can recognise that straight away so quickly.
Things are going pretty well for the Australian teams at the moment. All four are in the top 6 rather. It's a pity Ming the Merciless isn't on the show today because.
I wish he was. Oh my God.
I can imagine.
Oh well, look. Obviously, there's been a lot of chat, hasn't there, about the Brumbies being the benchmark team in recent years, which they are, and stacked full of Wallabies, and some outstanding Wallabies. So obviously they are the team that is supposedly going to be performing the best out of all of the Australian teams. We spent good time after the game in Hamilton with Sky talking about the Chiefs' next game, how big it's going to be, get tickets because it's the Brumbies coming into town, stacked full of Wallabies, easily a finals contender side. And then obviously against a team that's full of battlers, like the Force is the Highlanders of Australian rugby, if you ask me. Massively capable, got a scattering of really good players across it, other players that are journeymen, some of them at the end of their careers, but that they'll play well and dig in. And going to Canberra is never easy, do you know what I mean? Like JP getting off the bus there and looking around and seeing the tussocks flying down the road, you're like, shit me, rightio, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in my room in the next 24 hours before the match. But it's just a hard place to play. And for them to go there, the Force, and knock over the Brumbies like that, it's A, reality check for the Brumbies, but B, man, you cannot afford to drop your home games in this comp. You do that, you find yourself playing catch up for the rest of the season. So that's a massive result. And it would have been interesting to hear JP's thoughts. Thank fuck we don't have to, about any excuses. But from what I saw, mate, they just got outplayed. They had a real one-dimensional game. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jock. They had a one-dimensional game. When they got in that 22 5-metre zone, I thought it was kind of inevitable they were going to score, whereas the balance and the skill set of the Force, like the try that Peach scored in the second half off the line out with the around the tail and then inside ball. They were creative, eh? Yeah.
I think that's what Cronny's done really well. He's brought a bunch of guys together who have different skill sets. Like I went over last year to Perth for a mate's wedding, and I could feel like after the wedding there was a sort of a Western Force gathering, and the rest of us who were sort of still floating around, and you could see the tightness of the crew. Like I know from living in Perth, like I started at the Western Force, because you're so far away from home, you bond, like it's like there's a brotherhood there. And I think with the caliber of like some of the players that they've brought in, like they've bolstered their squad, they've got good carriers. I think Donaldson's playing really well, like what Peachy was doing. Like you got Hamish Stewart there as well, who's always going to be consistent and solid. They're playing an expansive game, but also they can play that tight game now. So I think, like they're a great team to watch, and I'm keen to see how deep they go.
Top of the table with the Chiefs. It's unreal. And the game of the round, Marshy, I was actually at a festival, Electric Avenue. I got a text from Marshy saying, "What a game of rugby!" And watched it the next day.
Oh.
Holy moly! Highlanders against the Blues.
How did Electric Avenue treat you anyway? Were you dusty on Sunday morning? I bet you were.
It's Monday evening when we're recording this, and I am still dusty. Great. It was a great festival.
I had both my sons there, and I won't say anything more than when I saw them on Saturday morning. They still had another day to go of what sort of state that they were in, but they said it was an amazing concert. But just the people around Christchurch was incredible, wasn't it? But yeah, look, we spoke about the Highlanders and what sort of side they are and how they'll be even a better side in terms of being able to grit their teeth against good sides at home. It was O week, so 2 sons at Electric Avenue and 1 daughter in the zoo.
Oh God!
I'll tell you what, mate. Do you want to talk about stress as a father? You got that coming to your, Jock, but maybe one of these days. But anyway. When I saw the state of that zoo down there, but just a great atmosphere. And when you saw the attitude of the Highlanders players, some of the tries they scored, but equally the fact they were just up for the fight all day, you can't argue that they didn't deserve to win. And the Blues now 2-0 are really under the pump, but I don't think you can formulate any excuses for them. They knew it was coming. They knew what the Highlanders was going to be like, but they didn't have an answer. And yeah, what an amazing game.
Yeah.
What is the answer to Tava Naiwa if you're facing up against him? Like,
Can I just make? So I wanted to make the point, but I didn't want to jump in too early. But look, this is a rash and random statement, and sometimes you can kind of go, "Oh, that's a bit early," but he's the type of player that the All Blacks need in the midfield.
100%.
Like, honestly, I'm just like, I've just watched him in the last 3 years, and obviously he's played on the wing, but now seeing him in at 12 and the devastation and destruction he can cause in that jersey, the balance that he gives a backline because of his ability to carry hard into contact and get weak shoulders on defenders, line breaks, speed. But at the weekend, if you don't believe me, watch his game. He's got kicking game as well.
Unbelievable.
So,
He got
like,
a 50-22.
Exactly.
He's had a couple this year already. Couple 50-22s already.
Yeah, he'll probably be up around the top jacklers in the tournament because he gets over the ball.
Yeah.
And I just think if you've got, he's not, and the reason I say this is he's not playing for Fiji because he wants to be an All Black.
Is
For
he?
the last
That's
3
what I
years,
was going to
he could've-
ask you.
Yeah, he could have been playing for Fiji. There's no doubt about it. Like, Fiji would take him in a heartbeat, but he's, and if the All Black selectors are not looking at him, now that he's got that 12 jersey on, that's been genius by the Highlanders, then they are foolhardy, because I just think he is devastating as a rugby player, and he is something that could really change the picture. He's a Nonu on steroids, and look at the destruction Ma'a was able to cause from moving from the wing to a 12. You know, that's what Tava Naiwa is doing.
Well, man, look at the caliber of 12s you have in the country. Any of them would sort of walk into a starting team in most nations, to be fair. And yeah, look, I agree with you. Like, on ball, ridiculous, big body, great footwork. He's fast, he's strong. I didn't know he had kicked a few 50-22s. If he adds that string to his bow, almost like what Ma had sort of towards that sort of middle part of his career, where he added that long ball, so hard to D, a little grubber through. But yeah, he's got a point of difference where you're always going to have to hold 1.5, 2 defenders on him. So whether he's a decoy, again, I haven't seen enough of his game to make that call, because I know how good, Dave and Barrett are. But yeah, look, if I have marked him when we played Moana. He was Dean in the front line, so I was flying out of that line to get to his ankles pretty quickly. But look, if he continues to grow his game, he's a beast.
This is not just oh my God, look at this guy, he's come out of nowhere, he's amazing. He's got consistency under his belt, and his consistency levels are always very, very high. Quite often he's getting man of the match performances. NPC, they can hardly contain him. He's just too powerful. And Super Rugby, he's been equally as consistent, particularly over the last 2 years. If they're not looking at him, then they don't recognise a player with real talent and ability. So I would hope that they are. He's in the equation, and he's in their thoughts, because I think he deserves to be.
The Reds got their season off to an absolute flyer at the weekend. Did you watch this game?
I did.
What were they, like 21 points in 12 minutes or something? I've got it in my notes somewhere. But they flew out of the blocks.
Yeah, they did. Like, that's, I mean, the Reds are going to be a great outfit. Under Les and the rest of the coaching group, I feel like they've built really well. The boys are tight. They've really beefed up the stock in terms of sort of the locks and the pack, and then they just know each other so well. Like, you're seeing some of those combinations and some of those tries between Tate and Fraser and Wilso, and then the Junkyard Dogs sort of all connecting, and then Hunter from those scrums literally squaring up and pulling teams apart. Like, they know each other and they know their game really well.
Tom Liner kicking all his goals as well helps.
Yeah, 7 from 7, I think it was.
That's handy. Marshy, did you watch any of that game?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I did, and I will obviously digress on the goal kicking thing a little bit later, because kicking conversions and penalty goals is very helpful in winning a rugby game, isn't it? But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that one.
Disclosed to myself. Exactly. Just like my location. But the thing that's concerning me a little bit, Jock, is the Australian teams with ball in hand are looking very good. Amazing ability to construct. I certainly feel that the loose forwards in particular have kind of learnt that modern day role of now not just carrying but being a distributor. The props equally now being that first receiver and now learning about the tip ball, the behind ball. So that all of a sudden the shape's looking much, much better in terms of attack across the board with Australian teams. But all of them bar none are leaking massive amounts of points defensively. You know, look, even as good as the Reds were, they, you know, Moana Pacifica were well in that fight. That was a high-scoring game. The Brumbies Force game was high-scoring.
Yeah, Brumbies Force was 45-42.
The week before was high.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Waratahs game the week before was high-scoring. If I was looking at it, preparing to play one of those sides, it would be like, right, we've got to get our attack going big time. But if defensively we're really, really sound, we know that they're going to concede, because at the moment they're just leaking high numbers of points. And that will be worrying them, I would imagine, particularly when they're going to have to face these New Zealand sides. Yeah,
interesting. Obviously, I've just been focusing on sort of week in, like who I've got to, prepare for next. So I've been watching, obviously, all the competition games and etc. But yeah, thinking about that, I think even if you look across as well, like look how high scoring our game was. Look at the Blues Highlanders game. Like there is a lot more points, like we were speaking about, because there's a lot more fatigue out there on the field. Obviously we're preparing to play the Reds in 2 weeks' time, so we've got a few ideas of how we sort of want to do that. But yeah, it is definitely an interesting point. And as you know, not so much myself, but defense win competitions. Like you look at Test footy, like it's if you can D up and limit a team from scoring, not so simple a game of attrition, right? But yeah, defense is sort of the most important part. And I guess like we learned on the weekend as well, sometimes without the ball, you can really squeeze teams if you can put that 14 men in the front line and just block them from playing.
Did you guys watch any of the Six Nations in the weekend? England 16-15 over Scotland. I mean, how the hell Scotland lost that is the first question. I felt like they were quite dominant, but to answer that question quite simply is that they didn't kick their goals.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, look, obviously Finn Russell didn't kick anything all day, so 3 tries, no conversions, there's your 15 points. You just have to bang one of them over and you win the game by a point, because they were the dominant side, and England were chasing the game right from the outset when Scotland scored early. They scored some really nice tries, really caught the England defence out big time on the flanks. They obviously have figured out a way to get outside their blitz defence, found good space. Fundermerva had a hell of a game. The architect is obviously, is Finn Russell. And everybody just sort of worked off the space that they're creating, because, you've got guys like that who are bringing 2 defenders in. And Finn Russell always does when he gets that lateral ball out the back. If defenders want to bite it in on him a little bit, or they hesitate. And he's always got this real good knack of knowing when he sees them turn in. They don't even have to get close to him, of knowing that's enough. If the guy outside me is still at pace and he's continued to run his line, he's beaten that guy anyway. And all of a sudden we've now created that mismatch. They did that well the entire game. The amount of times they broke the line, they capitalised it on enough. And unfortunately for them, for all of the good things he did do, he just couldn't find a conversion on the day. Otherwise, I agree, they should have won that game. England were pretty much a side that went into their shell after playing quite expansively. The Finn Smith, Marcus Smith thing didn't work as well. And they found themselves having to kick quite a lot of ball away for the pressure Scotland were putting them on. So that's one that definitely got away on Scotland big time.
Yeah, and you'll know Finn Russell will be disappointed with that, because he's a very good goal kicker. Like, you're seeing what he's done with Bath. He's hitting, I think, about 85%. Yep. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, he's one of the best creators in the game at 10. Like, he's not a big guy, but he's tall, and he always seems to get his body through the line. And then so you have to sort of double check on him. And he's got a great flat pass, very creative, short kicking game, long kicking game. Like, for me, he'd probably be the front runner for the Lions.
If that is the case, if he's the front runner for the Lions, I mean, you're probably going to answer the question with him kicking so well for Bath, but are we starting to see a potential weakness of the Lions if they're not going to be able to kick their goals? Because in the past, you always had a 10 for the Lions that you just assumed 89% like kicking ratio, whereas now it could be a little bit hit and miss. It's a little bit of a chink in the armour for the Lions, surely.
Yeah, well, again, it's going to be what combinations does Andy want to go with? Like, obviously, coming from that Ireland background, and then you think about, the centre pairing as well. Like, who's going to be in that 12 jersey? Who's going to be in the 15 jersey? Like, again, I have my thoughts on sort of, I would still want a creative team, especially with the way I think the game's going. And, he'll go back to the drawing board and he'll fix that up. No doubt about it. Like, I've had games and test matches where I've hit 2 from 5 and then the next week come back and hit 6 from 6.
Right.
Sometimes like you can just have an off day, but like you said, it is very tight games. I know the last one I played in, Halfpenny was playing, and I think he was hitting over 90% every time. Every time he put that ball in the tee, you knew it was going through the post. So having a handy goal kicker who's like above a 90%er. It's so awesome for your team, because as soon as you get in that half, you can put scoreboard pressure. You can go to you can just mix the game up well. And it should be tight games.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I guess that's the enigma of being a goal kicker, isn't it? Like one minute you can be the hero, and the next minute, you're the villain because you haven't been able to kick an important penalty or an important conversion. And look, none of the kicks that Finn Russell had were easy. So let's put that into context straight away. All the tries were scored, out in the corners. So, it's the hardest kick in the game. James O'Connor doesn't agree with that because, remember last week you said about that Hong Kong kick? It's like, mate, wow, I was glad that it was out there. It's like, you know what, if I miss it, then who gives a shit? But, sometimes it can take the pressure off a little bit. But I kind of was watching it, and I was actually backing him to kick that last one.
Yeah,
the crowd were at him. It's to win the game, and he'd missed 2 before that, and I kind of thought Finn Russell's the type of guy that thrives under that. He's just going to bang it over and have a bit of a smirk at the crowd and do the business. But you're right, Andy. Like, Lions Test matches they're heavily contested, and at times they're not high scoring. Traditionally, you don't get massive blowouts because it's such a challenge. So you do need to be able to bank your points when you've applied pressure. You won't possibly see, because of the significance of it, you might not see as much ambition from the captains. I'll be interested. Like even in international rugby now, I'm still noticing teams turning down very kickable threes for going for touch and wanting more reward. But and it shouldn't change. World Cups are the same, and we saw that happening at the Rugby World Cup. Scott Barrett opted for 3 against France at the end of last year in November. This is not World Cup, but many of us thought that they needed more then, and they ended up getting beaten. So it's going to be really interesting to see how much of a role a goal kicker plays. And then on the back of that, bloody hell, how well did Prendergast kick for Ireland? Fuck me, like he was very, very good. So a kicker can have a bad day out and it influences the game. Kicker can have a great day out and it influences the game in a positive, which he did. So. Yeah, I'm glad it's a role that I didn't have to take up. That's for sure.
Do you think Prendergast is an option for the Lions?
He's a long shot, I think. James, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts, but he just hasn't played the amount of rugby that some of the other contenders have. But if you think of Andy Farrell again, as Jock rightly said, it's about who he knows around him. Bundy Aki's going to make it, no doubt about it. James Lowe's going to make it. You'd probably think Ringrose makes it as well. They are players and James and Gibson Park. So all of a sudden you've got players that Prendergast will be very familiar with their running lines, the way they like to receive their ball on an outline or an inline, return balls, flat balls, whatever Prendergast will know. So who knows? Yeah,
and I think those combinations are so important. Like that is from an outside shot. I think if you are going to pick like Bundy there, and it might be an Ireland. Well, looking with what's going on at the moment, it might be an Ireland heavy team. Well, what do you do there? Do you have someone who's just going to underplay sort of at 10 and kick all his goals and just create through using your big ball carriers and your guys like big centers out wide? Or do you go with someone who will just put their stamp on the game and really dominate it? And we've seen from Finn as well, he loves those big moments. So, man, it's exciting to see, what Andy's going to do.
Do you know? But what's interesting to me, and this is by no means any amount of disrespect towards in any of the England backline. It's just an observation, and the observation is I'd be super interested to see how someone like Marcus Smith would play with Bundy Aki outside him. You know, like all of a sudden that dynamic changes. He's a completely different player than a Henry Slade.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, what does it look like for Marcus Smith when he's got a tank like that outside him?
I feel like that Irish sort of style of swinging would really suit Marcus. Like if you've got a big body in there who's going to attract defenders, like he'll be able to just swing behind pods, create like what you sort of with Sexton. But then, you know, Marcus has got that extra 2 yards of speed. He can beat defenders one-on-one. He's got a great short kicking game. Like, yeah, he's been in the game long enough now, and he can be called upon. Like he is very steady. I think I would love to see that, honestly. Because playing at those seams.
Yeah, exactly, at those seams, and then you got someone like Jameson Gibson-Park who's just different ability to be able to read, to take steps. Then you maybe a Fundamerva as utilised as a winger. But again, the same with Finn Russell, having Bundy Aki outside him. Their options are incredible. Like, it's going to be a real hard dynamic to actually work out for Owen Farrell, exactly as how he gets the balance between game plan management, between structure, between ambition to play, between instinctive rugby, between structured rugby. Like, who's going to be involved in all of that, and the players that he's going to work together in a 23 to get that sort of 80-minute performance. Fascinating. Geez, a hell of a job to have to select that side.
Let's finish things off with Marshy's tunnel vision. Do you want to? Have you got a tunnel vision for us, Marshy, where you describe one of the most memorable tunnels that you've ever walked out in your career? It doesn't need to be for the All Blacks, the Crusaders, or it could be a club team. It could be anywhere.
The tunnel you're in now. Where are you again?
He's in a cell.
Yeah. I'm in a cell. Look, again, like anyone that's going to answer this, we'll all have plenty of favourite tunnels that we've walked out of, run out of, had to walk side by side on. And that dynamic does change depending on where in the world you play, what type of test match you're playing in. At World Cup, obviously they have a regulation that both teams meet in the tunnel and then walk out together. That's just part of what World Cup does, so they don't get one team actually running out second as the home team or whatever it might be. So you get all those situations and all those dynamics. I've definitely had things thrown at me. I've been spat at.
Wow.
I don't know if they're memorable. Yeah. Gloucester, tell you what, that was entertaining, and Glenathley. And I've been called all sorts of different names, but my favourite tunnel to walk out of, and I know this is going to sound very cliche, but there's nothing truer in my mind, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was walking out the Parc des Princes for my first test match for the All Blacks, because the first thing that really struck me was a changing room, and it's a big changing room at the old Parc des Princes, and I remember walking in there and seeing my Test All Black jersey for the first time, and it was facing with the 9, and I thought that was quite cool because it made me recognise that was my role for the day. It wasn't the fern that was on the front. It was about the jersey I was slotting on and how I was going to impact on the game and what my position basically was going to do to influence this game and what it meant to me, always wanting to grow up to be an All Black scrum half. This was my day. I remember walking down in my tracksuit before the game, and James would have done this, and there was no one there, basically, and you walk out and you see this big empty field. So then fast forward another 50 minutes, and that stadium was about 75,000, I think it was, full, and walking out that tunnel with that jersey on for the first time in a hostile environment, and hearing the roar and the whistles and the jeers of the French crowd, and knowing what was in front of me in terms of being an All Black for the first time, that memory will never leave me. And we went out first, and the French came out, and I remember seeing them come out the tunnel, and the decibels went up 300%. And I remember my heart really starting to race, thinking, shit, what have I got myself in for here? But then my adrenaline levels just went to another level. So that's easily my favourite memory, and I've loved all the other tunnels.
Next week on the show, we are joined by former Crusader and All Blacks legend Aaron Major. He's going to be joining us and talking all things Mertz, Marshall, Maxwell, Robbie Deans as well, your old mate. You were coached by Robbie Deans, weren't
I
you?
was, yeah.
Oh, great. And so make sure you tune in. So hit the subscribe button. Lads, thank you very much for joining us. Marshy, good luck with the bail hearing, and enjoy your week off, Jock.
Yeah, we'll do. Can't wait.
Thanks, mate. Invoice is on its way, Andy, because I actually do need bail money. So, yeah, just expect that so that I can get out. Thank you very much.
Wait, we get paid for this?